Now let's talk about setting realistic expectations when we raise bilingual child. When raising a bilingual child, it's important to set realistic expectations for their language development. Some key considerations may include developmental stages. Just like with the monolingual language acquisition, bilingual language development occurs in stages and it's not a linear process. Children may mix languages, make mistakes, errors, take longer to become proficient in the both languages. It is important to understand that these are normal and expected stages of bilingual language development. Let me explain this a little bit more. So we have one brain and there are just two regions in that brain responsible for the language. One of that region is responsible for listening and comprehension and another one is responsible for production. So whether you are bilingual, trilingual, multilingual individual, there are only two regions involved into processing of numerous languages. So as any child in this world, whether it's a monolingual or bilingual, children at the very beginning pass through the same exact stages. The first year is about listening and starting to use their throat to produce some sounds, and like we call these stages pre-speech, which is including cooing, gooing, and bubbling. Babbling continues longer, and then when they babble, they jump into the one-word stage. So sooner or later, your babbling baby is going to produce some meaningful words. Meaningful for us. For instance, the first probably is going to be mama. For most of the kids, this is mama is the first one that they produce, or mommy, or baba, or whatever. Because the M is the first sound that everybody acquires in this world, whether it's a Chinese speaker or Russian speaker, we all start from the letter M because that's the easiest to pronounce. Then the next stage after one word stage is going to be a two-word stage. So when the children start combining words to deliver the message, then the stage becomes a multiple word stage when the children use several words to express what they want. Eventually they start producing ungrammatical sentences that deliver message, but they grammatically may not be correct. Like for instance, in English, they miss the S at the end of the third person verbs, right? But eventually, by age of 4, from 4 to 5, they develop grammatical sentences, and therefore, by age of 5, any child in the world starts speaking language natively. They are native speakers of that given language. When we have bilingual children, they pass through exactly the same stages. The only thing that is, they are falling behind a little bit in the quantity of the words that they can learn, because again, the brain is the one, the same areas and regions are involved, and therefore there is just that much they can absorb. Like if they're supposed to know 100 words, the 50 of those words are going to be in one language, 50 in another language, and when we actually compare those with monolingual peers in one language to monolingual peers, they may look like they're falling behind, but for bilingual or multilingual children, those words must be combined. So that's why we say that there is a developmental stage where the kids cannot go beyond that stage at this particular moment. And even if they go beyond that stage, right, we cannot teach the perfect grammar at the age of 3. We don't expect kids to produce grammatical sentences at that age. They might, but you better just be realistic. So that is a realistic expectation. Language dominance. Children may develop a preference for one language over another, and this is normal part of being bilingual and bilingual language acquisition. It is important to accept and respect your child's language dominance, but also to encourage them to use both languages. Yes, the language is the easiest language. They're going to pick it up way faster. For instance, in our case, Russian versus English and Spanish, the Russian is the most complicated, and I can explain. For instance, baby vocabulary in English, all of those words are short, small, and literally one syllable. Like for instance, any animal, take any animal, cow, owl, bat, rat, cat, dog, everything is a very short one syllable, yeah. When we talk about Spanish, it's a little bit more complex. For instance, the same words in Spanish sound 2 syllables. Perro, vaca, gato. So you see, all those words now have 4 letters, 2 syllables. When we use the Russian language, this is insane because every single baby vocabulary in that language has 3 syllables. For instance, korova, and not the easiest sounds, I can tell you, not the easiest letters to pronounce. Sabaka, koshka. You see, the child, of course, naturally will go for the easiest language first, and eventually this is English in our case. But if you stay consistent, they will eventually learn, and the most complex, which is Russian. It will take longer, but anyways, they will opt for the language dominance. Of course, first it's gonna be the easiest language, but stay consistent and don't lose hope. Fluency. Becoming fully fluent in 2 languages is a complex and ongoing process that can take years. It's important to set realistic expectations for your child's language development and understand that becoming fluent in 2 languages or more than 2 is a long-term goal. Okay, we have 3 languages where we set the fluency as a priority before age of 5. This is Russian, English, Spanish. But we have a 4th language, which is Chinese, and I understand that she's not going to develop fluency by age of 5. No way, because we started to learn Chinese at the age of 4. So then I think that she may not even develop like full fluency by age of 15 with our pace. But anyways, I would expect some level of proficiency, let's say by age of 7, 8. She can put sentences together and explain basic things at least. And maybe she can develop a fluency by age of 15, I don't know, I hope. So set realistic expectation. Then the context. Children may use one language in a certain situation and another language in another situation, so it's all depends on the situation. For example, they may prefer to use one language at home and another language in school. This is normal and expected part of bilingual language development, and it's important to understand that context play an important role in your child's language use. Consistency. Maintaining consistency in the language use is important for supporting your child's bilingual language development and journey. But it can be challenging in bilingual household. It's important to set realistic expectations for yourself and your child in terms of the language use and to be flexible in your approach. For instance, I had everything on the schedule, everything was fine until I had the second child. When I had the second child, the first year of the life of the second child, it completely absorbed my physical powers, my mental health, everything, right? All the forces of our household were directed for the new baby, because babies are needy. And I understand, like, I had a strategy, so I had to read my daughter in every language, including Chinese, every day, and that was my practice for years until the second child. But once the baby was born, I understood that I can no longer maintain this strategy at home. So I decided, okay, I cannot do 4 languages in the same day, but I can do a little bit each day. So on one day we read in Russian, another day in Spanish, and third day in Chinese, and this is the way it is. Once the baby is a little bit older, we are gonna go back to our schedule. Maybe again, it might be different, but that is a consistency that we do not quit those languages. But at the same time, we are flexible because the situation changed and life happens. I'm sorry. So in general, setting realistic expectations for your child's bilingual language development and being patient and supportive and encouraging, just by doing that, you can help your child develop strong language skills and a positive identity as a bilingual or multilingual individual.